tight. I'll be here with you all night. My mind, I'm getting lost in your eyes. I'm broken when you're not around. Unspoken words I'm screaming out. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Now, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Hi, and welcome to Twin Flames Between Worlds podcast. My name is Tabitha.
And I'm Liesl.
Hi, and welcome back to our second mini episode of our third season, A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas.
Woo!
Welcome back. Hi. So, second spoiler episode of the season. We'll make a blanket statement. Again, if you have not read the whole ACOTAR series up until the end of Silver Flame, do not continue.
Unless you want to.
Do
That's
not
okay.
pass. Yeah. Otherwise, we don't care. Whatever. We still love you. So yes, this will be spoilers. We will be talking about the powers that be, the mother, the cauldron, Kosetchi, the lake, everything. Everything that kind of is out of our, out of our character's control.
Yes.
So that is going to be lingering and still continuing on to further books.
The dangerous or mysterious power.
Yes, or will they help or hinder? We don't know. So yes, I just wanted to, before we start, we work so hard on this podcast and we love the support we've been getting, but also we're really bad at self-promotion. So I'm going to be promoting the Patreon again. So please support us in any way you can. If you want to pay the $3 or $5 a month, please do. If you want to be a part of it for free, we love that as well. Just wanted to go through. So there's two tiers. There's the High Fae for $3 a month and the Inner Circle for $5. They both get access to the Discord and early access to the main audio episode, but the main difference is the Inner Circle gets access to the video episodes that Liesl spends so much hard work on, and obviously me on the audio for the early set, but anyway. So I just want to promote that. Please, if you can, please do, or support us in any way you can. We really appreciate y'all. So let's dig right in.
Yep.
So in our deep dives for the last two episodes, let's first start with the Bone Carver and his siblings. So we learned there that the Bone Carver, Striga / the Weaver, and Kosetchi are all siblings. The Bone Carver and the Weaver are twins, and Kosetchi is their older brother. Now, as we know their fate by the end of ACOWAR. Striga and the Bone Carver both die by the end of the third book.
One is a bit more of a brutal death and the other a bit sad.
Yes, Striga gets decapitated, or sorry, I was thinking of Amaranth. That's not even how she died anyway, so fuck.
You're
But
thinking
anyway. Yeah, I am thinking about him. The King of Hybern snaps her neck, and then he feeds her to his dogs.
It's like literally one of like those movie moments of grab her head and just...
Which you'd think, well, and if we remember, so this is something I didn't talk about in the main episodes because we haven't gotten there yet. The Bone Carver says that the Death Gods are immortal beings. Like, he says that in the section we did, but he adds later that they choose when they die. It's like they get to choose how they die. So it's like, did Striga really choose that death?
She didn't choose that death, but like she chose that she wanted to die after watching the Bone Carver's death.
Yes, because the Bone Carver does die before her, and he dies when the Cauldron hits for the first time on all those Illyrian warriors.
And it's such a sad one. He's just standing there, well, not standing there, he's fighting and stuff, and then like he doesn't even see it coming at first until Striga like calls out. I think in the book it specifically says the call of an older sister or something, call of a sister, and he just turns and smiles
at Feyre.
And Feyre sees it, and he just smiles, and then he's covered in this white light, and then he's gone, and it's like, wow, that's dramatic.
And they're all like Thanos snapped. I imagine them like just bits of dust, not even like they're just extinguished. Dude, that whole part is gonna make me cry, bro. Like even you just talking about it make me sad.
It's like, wow, that even though he's like this death god, that's supposed to strike fear into our heart, we feel such like sad emotion for it.
Well, because we've gotten to know the Weaver and the Bone Carver pretty well over the series, so it's kind of anyway, it really tugs at the heartstrings.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, okay, if we only saw them once as this like big scary monster that Feyre had to fight or face and overcome, but no, they came back multiple times. You know, we see Frigga 3 times, you know, the first time fight her, and then at the Weaver, well, we don't technically see her when Ianthe gets what she deserves, and then see her again on the battlefield. And then Bone Carver, what do we see him like 4 times? Yeah. First time with Cassian, going back on her own with the Ouroboros, and then on the battlefield.
4 times. The first time with Cassian, then she goes one more time before the Court of Nightmares, then she goes when she has the Ouroboros and frees him, and then the battlefield.
So that's 5 times total.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so we see him 5 times.
He's like that reoccurring character in a TV show that he's kind of very morally gray, right? He's not good or bad, but he just kind of is there, and so it's kind of sad to see him go.
It definitely, honestly, I don't know if this is a weird connection, but it kind of gives me the vibe of, it could be in movies, but like video games where it's like one character that you always go to see to get your next mission or to get a bit of information. It's like, okay, go back to this person. Okay, go do the quest. Okay, go back to this. It's like, that's kind of what it feels like with the book.
Yeah, and so he's like a reoccurring character, so it's heartbreaking to see, but obviously they do not, I mean, you never know. SJM could tie them back in somehow. I don't know how that would happen. I don't know where the death gods go when they die. That's what the Bone Carver was trying to figure out, so we don't really know where they ended up.
That's true. I mean, I was going to say something similar to that, of we don't know where they go, and the fact that they were talking about like other worlds, and the fact that, you know, Feyre said that she had a choice when she died, going way back. She said she had a choice when she died, and then, you know, the Bone Carver seemed really curious about that. So what if like that choice comes back of like, he's just been sitting in limbo this whole time? Like, imagine that.
I don't know. See, because like, I feel like there's a difference between them dying and where they go versus like the normal Fae. I feel like there has to be some sort of a difference.
It has to be. I mean, gods versus normal Fae.
Or maybe they just disappear, like they're just gone forever. I don't know. Because if they're truly immortal and they choose to die, are they just choosing to cease to exist? Or is like there an actual place for them? I don't know. We don't know.
Or is it, another, I guess, question is, if when they choose to die, is that just them choosing for their bodies to die because they're gods? So maybe they're continue to traverse.
That'd be interesting. I mean, I'm not sure. That's again, like something we'll have to find out.
Because I mean, I guess that kind of just popped into my mind of what if that was like similar to what the mother was like? Because the mother's like a goddess, right? So or maybe she once had a physical body and she chose to die, but now her spirit lingers.
And maybe they're now under the mother somehow and like working for her or something.
Which in that case, they may come back because we seem to have seen more of the mother in Silver Flame. So
yeah, so I mean, what's interesting about the Death Gods is that, how do I say this? The Bone Carver was on the prison. He got himself captured. And then Striga had all of the middle, but she was kind of confined to her cottage. The interesting thing about Kosechi that we don't really get is, does he have the whole lake? Or is it like you said in one of the last episodes, does he have a little island, but the whole, because what we know now overall about Kosechi is that he's the one who turned Vasa into, he cursed her.
Yeah.
Firebird by night, human by day.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Phoenix version of Fiona from Shrek. Like, that's the first thing I thought of, but I was like, a little bit cooler.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't turn into an ogre. She turns into a big ass phoenix.
Yeah.
So we also know about Kosechi is that he has a lot of other women captured. He has like, Avatar fans in the Earth Kingdom. If they were all under that lake? Oh my god, it was.
Yeah.
It was Bossing say the episode where they found out all of those women were. It was all the same woman or whatever, and they were mind controlling them.
Right. And the strip of land and then down the pothole.
That is what I imagine of Kosechi. I just imagine him on the lake and then there's just a bunch of women, because we don't really know much about those other women. He has just a bunch of women captured. Like, are those other firebirds? Are those, because what makes Vasa special for her to be cursed in this way versus the other women who are kind of just more his slaves?
I mean, I kind of theorized that it's because she was a queen. You know, the reason that she she was given to Kosechi was because the queens, the others, like turned on her and gave her up. So it's like that. And then also, you know, going way back to when we learned about humans having magic, however small, what if like she had something in her bloodline that like when she was cursed, similar to the other women, maybe something else reacted and then she ended up being like Firebird. I think even, going back a little bit, when you were thinking of Avatar, one thing that like the image that popped into my mind actually was about from the anime Inuyasha. There's like this one episode where this beast is like going out and capturing pretty young women to be his wives, multiple. But the way he does it is he has like this crown, this literally like a crown of gold, a metal string or whatever you want to call it, and it like flies around on his command and then just sits on their head. And like he does that for everyone, and then all of a sudden it's like, yes, master.
Oh yeah, God.
But anyway, so it's like that kind of thing of just like, yeah, he probably has a bunch of like women, and what if they're not like all like Vasa, like we learned, is a firebird, obviously a phoenix, but what if like the others were like supposed to be turned into other things, maybe other birds like doves or swallows or other animals or something? Like what if they were cursed in that way? Like what if he works with animals? Who knows?
Maybe that's how he gets his information. Maybe he like sends them out and then they come back to him with it. Because what we know from Silver Flame about Kosechi is that he knew about well, that kind of made sense because the Bone Carver knew about Nesta and all that. But I mean, obviously we know Kosechi and Briellen, thank God. Sorry. Damn me to hell. Yes, Briellen and Kosechi were working together, but what is his end game? Because I feel like that will change what those women are for. It's like,
that's true.
Is he trying to, because what Reese and company in the Inner Circle are assuming is that Kosechi wants the Dread Trove so that he can take over the world. Yeah. I don't think I agree. I don't think I agree with that because both of his siblings, so again, we kind of talked about this pre-recording, but I can see how somebody could make the argument that like since the twins, Striga and the Bone Carver, were kind of onto themselves and separate, that Kosechi was the bad older brother who had to be put away from them. I could see somebody coming up with that argument, but I don't think he wants the Dread Trove. It's too easy for him to want the Dread Trove. The Inner Circle thinks he wants the Dread Trove to get out of the lake. But the thing is, I feel Briellen with the crown could have gotten him out of there. What ties that bind him to this is freaking me out. I don't really know how to put it into words.
Right. It also seems like that is a very large lake. If you look at the map, it takes up a huge chunk of the continent. So it's like, actually, it doesn't seem necessarily like that he would want to leave the lake. Like, that's kind of his, like, kingdom and shit. I also totally imagine, kind of like the Avatar, what if he does have, like, this whole underground base thing under the lake? Like, he could have a city, like, similar to the Hewn City, where it's, like, all underground and stuff.
Well, how does he keep the women alive? Unless, like you said, they're all animals or fish or some shit and just are, like, living in the lake somehow. He has to have something.
They were all fish.
Because what it seemed like to us, even Striga, I mean, we didn't really get much of her perspective, but the Bone Carver, it seemed like they were fine where they were at. Him and Striga both. So I disagree with the notion that I think you're right. I think you're dead on. I don't think he wants to really leave.
Yeah.
So,
but he wants something.
Yeah.
Like maybe the Dread Trove is a stepping stone. So it's like he doesn't want that as his thing to like get out. I mean, I know it's a bit of a cliche of like, oh, they want the most powerful collection of items, that kind of thing. But like maybe he needs them for certain aspects of whatever his master plan is, which of course we don't know.
Yeah,
or
because
what if he needs someone who can control those? So maybe that's why he sought Briellen, because she had control of the crown. But it turns out that she couldn't actually control it.
Kosechi is so interesting, okay? Because so the first thing we need to start, if we're like deep diving into this, like we need to start at the beginning when we hear about it. So what we know by the end of Aka War is that Kosechi, the death god, got bargained from Feyre's dad to let Vasa go and save them.
Yeah.
How the fuck did Feyre's dad, Papa Archeron, somehow manipulate this death god into letting her go? That is a big question mark.
I mean, yeah, because Papa Archeron was just this like character in the very first book, and then second book he's absent, and then this book, like he comes in like charging with a huge army, and he has Vasa, and he got, like you said, he got Vasa from Kosechi somehow. I mean, there could be the chance that Kosechi actually manipulated him back, of like, okay, sure, you can do this, and then I'll get this in return, that kind of thing. But like Papa Archeron is actually really awesome, and I kind of hate that we don't have a name for him.
Yeah, and I think there's a reason for that. I think the people who don't have names, there's a hell of a big reason for that. Her mom, her dad, I feel like this is more of a mass verse thing where like their names are going to somehow match up to names. Let me just throw that out there. What if his name was Dorian? I'm not saying that that's the case, but I think that's going to be something that we'll know. That's why we don't have the name. Kind of like Reese's last name. We don't know it because we would know it.
Something else.
Yes. About Papa Archeron. So what we get from which sucks is because, you know, obviously he dies by the end of ACOTAR. Nobody has asked Vasa what happened, which I think is a real terrible decision. Because what we know from Lucian is that Lucian was on his way, right? Because that was his mission. He was going to get Vasa. But they were already on the way and met with Lucian at some point. He didn't even get to the lake yet.
Right.
They were already on their way. So the only person that knows what happened is Vasa. And we don't even get that in Silver Flame. Like, she just pops up and is talking about Briellen, which obviously is a big plot hole, is that they need to ask her about what happened because, you know, again, she at the end of ACOTAR, she being Vasa, went up to Feyre and said, Cursebreaker, can you help me?
Like, that's like dangling the thing of like, hey, I want to get out of this curse. But I also feel like there's something else. And you're right, throughout like the rest of the ACOTAR books up to Silver Flame, she's just been like chilling with the band of exiles down in the mortal realms, you know, Lucian and Jurian and Vasa together, like woohoo. But like, we haven't like heard any of the stories unless Jurian somehow now knows what happened with Vasa. But again, we don't know that. And also the fact that Vasa, you know, she said she was let out to help in the war, but by the time Silver Flame happens, that's months later. So she either got an extension to her freedom, her vacation, or like she's not actually required to go back. Because like, I mean, it doesn't, at least to me, it doesn't quite seem like it's in her curse to go back, at least from what we've seen. And it's like, okay, if Kosechi can't leave his lake, is he gonna like come and get her? So like, what's gonna happen with that?
It's such a major question mark, dude. It's infuriating, bro. Because it's like, they made it seem like she had to go back at some point, and then she's just stuck in the human lands. Did Papa Archeron maybe, when he was making the deal, was it kind of like a loophole to where he didn't specify a time? Kind of like he pulled an Amarantha by like the end of the first book where he said, I didn't say when I'd be returning. I just said I would.
I mean, I feel like with a death god, like there's less likely a chance for loopholes, but I was gonna say, I guess we know where Feyre got her bargaining skills from.
Oh my god. Yeah. So it's Vasa and Kosechi are a huge red flag. Why is she so important to him? And why are all these women important to him? What is his end goal? Because like, even by the end of Silver Flame, Kosechi doesn't seem like, I mean, everybody's scared of him because the only thing we get of him is when Cassie and Nazriel go over to spy on Briellen while Nesta and the girls, the Valkyries, are in
Bloodright.
Thank you. They're in the Bloodright, and Cassian gets caught by Briellen, but it's actually Kosechi in disguise.
But
so,
literally see of him as like a shadow. We don't even see what he looks like.
But the thing is, Kosechi was beyond his lake then, because if that wasn't Briellen at all, because remember, it was Eris and Briellen were in a wagon coming out of the castle. They made their way to the lake. If that was Kosechi the whole time, he has way more range than just the lake.
It does seem like maybe he's just physically stuck to his lake, but like maybe, actually, this just popped into my head. Theory. What if he captures these women and uses these women like in a way of using their energy, their life force to give him power enough to like reach out mentally and spiritually, even if his body is physically stuck in the lake, if he even has a body.
Kind of like a ghost possession kind of thing, but like he's not possessing a woman to get there.
I mean, because something else that we've seen or read about is the fact that, you know, he seemed to have been always whispering in Briellen's ear. So it's almost he can reach out, almost Demari-like, where he is able to almost speak to them. But it sounds, from what I've read, it sounds like it's more of a physical presence. So it's like a physical presence whispering in your ear.
Is it a coincidence that he is Shadow and the library is also shadowed and whispers? Bryaxis also is like just basically a big giant cloud. And I'm not saying Bryaxis is Kosechi, but I think it's too much of a coincidence that he's not like a corporeal being. Because when they see him, he is just black and shadow.
That's true.
Talking to them. And they know it's him because they can feel it. Because like he's hovering over the lake or whatever, and what does he call Cassian? I think he either calls him Lord of Bloodshed or Prince of Bastards, which is the thing his brother, the Bone Carver, called him when he first saw Cassian. It was one of them. It was one of his monikers. So to me, I don't think like, okay, and I might be completely wrong about this, I don't think Kosechi's a bad guy. I mean, obviously obviously him keeping women is not great, but like I don't think he's.
What if he actually keeps them like for their protection? What if his whole like, you know, if we're going with the under the lake thing, what if that's the library and the priestesses, like it's a sanctuary? And another theory, sorry, I shouldn't be sorry. This is
this is the theory episode.
Most of these are actually just popping into my head, so I haven't.
That's why we're talking about them, yeah.
Like one theory I have, there's some flaws in it, of course. I know a little bit back, you know, we talked about how, you know, when Feyre first got into the Spring Court, she had these nightmares with the shadow in background. We had theorized that was Rhys watching over her.
Which makes sense.
But what if there was an extra added thing, and that was Kosechi? And Kosechi has just been watching this whole thing this whole time, planning it all out, similar to how I theorize that the mother kind of has everything planned out.
Because I can't say that that's a no, but we also know from Mist and Fury, though, that Rhys did look into her nightmares. Like, he was present when watching them.
Right, so that's part of the flaw, but definitely, like, that's what opens it up of, like, what if Kosechi has been watching this whole time? Because his, like, mental thing is able to, like, go around.
Well, and maybe he's what's in the library. Maybe fuck whatever we were gonna say about the mother, like, maybe that is him.
I mean,
we don't know.
It is kind of weird that, you know, the twins were on Prythian and Kosechi was put away. I mean, that goes with your theory of he was the bad older brother, he had to be separated from them. But also, what if they were three of them? I mean, the bone cover did seem scared of both of them. But, you know, that's to be expected. They're siblings and death gods. You can only expect how that's
the real death gods of Prythian.
You can totally expect how that bickering goes. But what if his body is actually imprisoned in the library, like you're saying? What if that was his prison, like early on? Okay, just hear me out. I'm just rambling here, stream of conscious. So what if that's where his body was, but then he didn't want to be like on the same like island basically as his siblings, and so he's just like mentally cast himself over to the lake?
I mean, obviously it's a theory. I like that. Honestly, now I'm starting to see the connection between Bryaxis and him, and that's really concerning because
Bryaxis was nice to Feyre, basically.
I don't think they're the same thing, but also wouldn't that be wild if they were? Because they couldn't find him, remember? Bryaxis, by the end of ACOTAR, they couldn't find him. He's just gone.
What if? Hang on. Something just clicked. I don't know if it's the right thing or not. But, so if we're going with the idea that Kosechi and Bryaxis are one and the same, Kosechi basically possessed Cassian in Silver Flame. Bryaxis terrified Cassian in the library. What if he saw something like down there, like similar? So what if Kosechi like was just like, hey, by the way, remember what you saw down in the library?
Remember me. Well, because he actually seemed happy to see Cassian. Like, it wasn't one of those, I mean, obviously it was a trap because then Briellen enthralled him with Crown.
Yeah.
But he let Azriel go.
That's true. It seems like he had like some like specific connection with Cassian. And at least from what we've heard, Azriel hasn't ever like gone all the way down.
And also, what if he just wants Nesta? I mean, everyone seems like they want her, so all those death gods in Silver Flame all seem to want her. Maybe that was the end goal. Maybe he wanted, or maybe, like you said earlier, maybe by getting to him, that'll get to her so that she can come save him or whatever.
Yeah.
That he needs saving from.
Which I know we talked, I mean, obviously we're not there in the main podcast, but when we were doing our first read of Silver Flame, my first read of Silver Flame, I think I remembered talking about how, you know, when basically, you know, Kosechi possessed Cassian and went to her with Briellen, went to Nesta with Briellen. You know, I definitely was on that track of thinking that Briellen was using Cassian to get to Nesta. But my thought is, you know, just because it seemed Briellen was the one in control of Cassian when they like came back to Prythian and found her after the blood rite and stuff, what if Kosechi was possessing him but not controlling him? He wanted to see through Cassian's eyes. Maybe he let his spirit like be in Cassian's body to see through Cassian's eyes to see Nesta, you know, letting Briellen do whatever shitty things she wanted to do. But more so, he was just using it for his own gain. He just wanted to see what Nesta was like.
Well, that goes with the theory about the women, so like that could possibly be it, because they were confused about why Kosechi was siding with Briellen and working with her in the first place. Why was he helping her?
It seems like just an end of like she was just a stepping stone.
Yeah, because the difference between Briellen and Nesta was that, yeah, Briellen was also made by the Cauldron, but she was also cursed by the Cauldron. Well, since Nesta was still given everything. I mean, technically she did steal from it, but by the end of ACOTAR, the Cauldron was fine with her because Elaine was protecting her, which leads down another rabbit hole of why the hell the Cauldron was like just okay with letting Nesta go.
Yeah.
But Kosechi is an enigma, okay? Like, he's definitely a piece on the chessboard, but I don't really really know where he fits, because I don't think he's necessarily evil, but I also don't think that the whole Vasa thing is good either. But maybe
I
Vasa...
think it's like Bone Carver and the Weaver, of like, they're just morally gray.
They're the real morally gray characters.
Yep.
So yeah, so like moving on. So then about more kind of going off the vein of the Cauldron, the mother in the Cauldron. So obviously, just to give feedback, like I said, by the end of ACOTAR, the Cauldron is put together again because they tried to destroy it, and they can't because it is the life force of their world. They cannot destroy it, or their world will cease to be. Now, we always knew that the mother seemed to be some sort, because they always made it seem like a god situation. But we know from the end of Silver Flame, she is actually there. She is present and talking to Nesta.
And she seems actually pretty down to earth.
She actually makes sense because by the end of Silver Flame, she's kind of talking to her directly throughout the whole thing, but specifically at the end when Nesta saves Feyre and Nyx from dying, she gives her power away. But Nesta, I think I'm getting excited. The mother tells Nesta that she could rule the world with her, and she could rule worlds with her power.
Plural.
She said she doesn't want it, and she wants to give it away for them. So basically, the mother leaves a little kernel of magic for Nesta. So we don't really know what that means. Does that mean she is still able to use the Dread Trove? Probably, I would say.
Or what if it wasn't about the magic? Like, what if it was just her?
A kernel of the mother in her?
Well, no, I mean, yes, that too. But like, what if Nesta just was fated to use the Trove, regardless of how much of that power she still has?
We don't really know. Like, I mean, it's made pretty clear that only people who were made by the Cauldron can do it. So it doesn't really mean that because of her power that necessarily, like, I think anybody who was made by the Cauldron could use it.
Which is why Briellen was able to use the...
Yes, but she wasn't, it didn't call to Nesta, it didn't call to Briellen like it did to Nesta.
Yeah.
Because if that was the case, Briellen would have been able to just swipe the items from her and teleport them to her. But she wasn't able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we've been doing for a long time, or I guess, a long time. Just like something about Nesta makes things work out of the ordinary. I mean, touching on the mother, like right from the get-go of first book, ACOTAR, I was thinking that, let me back up a little bit. I had a lot of like theories about like the Fae lineage, and I brought it up in, I think, almost every episode in some way or another.
It's fine.
But there's, that one theory that I had way early on was that Papa Archeron was Fae, which,
you did. You actually...
I thought Fae, or like he knew Fae or whatever, because, the way that the creditors broke his leg was similar to how the Fae attacked the mercenary. That was my reasoning behind it. But then, I was kind of thinking along the lines of, Archerons are descended from Fae. I still believe that. One other part of that theory, though, was that they are directly descended from the mother, which I'm not so certain about anymore. Either descended from the mother or from that Fae warrior that has been mentioned.
We don't know her fucking name.
We don't really know much about her. But I think there was a point in time in that first book where, I was thinking that the mother actually was the Archeron's mother.
There are still some theories going around that it's almost like there's some Massverse stuff that I can't say necessarily that can back this up, but people are saying that maybe the mother possessed the Archeron's mother for like a short time and was living as her for a little while to birth them, and then of course out of there, and that's why she died.
Oh, interesting.
There's some theories going around like that.
I mean, that kind of reminds me of, just real quick, another anime reference, I guess. Seven Deadly... this is a spoiler for everything, I guess. Warning, spoiler for Seven Deadly Sins. At the end of the anime, I think in the third season, there's like this character who gets possessed by a goddess from a person of the goddess race. And, when the goddess leaves, actually it's a male who gets taken over. A male character, he ends up, pretty sure he dies or at least gets very sick the moment that the goddess leaves his body. So it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was a similar thing here. I mean, that's an issue. I hadn't heard that theory, obviously, because I don't know the other Massverse stuff. But the idea of getting possessed to birth like demigods, basically, and then leaving that mortal person to die.
That would make sense why Feyre is mated to the most powerful High Lord in history, because if she's like like a demigod, then that makes so much more sense.
Yeah, more than just the fact that she has this magic of the set chords, because that's powerful, but like for her to be able to learn learn about them and wield them and, you know, become Daemati, even though, you know, part of that is race. I also feel like it was something else. Like, sure, there's the difference between her being able to have those powers and her being able to use them and use them well. So I think that would make sense, though, if she was demi or even semi-god.
And she was mated to him before that, before she was changed.
When she was a human, she was mated to him. So like, how did that happen?
Kind of like similar with Nesta and Cassian, though. Like, Cassian knew when he met her that they were fated and that they were mates, whether or not he agreed with it or not, which then makes me question Elaine, because if Elaine is, so there's, okay, I know this isn't what we were talking about, but it's relevant.
Yeah.
So you know how Feyre and Nesta look very similar to their mother? And Elaine is the odd one out. She doesn't have the gray eyes or like the blue-gray eyes. She's like different looking than them. Some people are saying,
or like the Papa Archeron.
Some people are saying that their mother is not the same mother.
Oh.
Like Nesta and Feyre's mom, like, is something happened there where it like missed her, or she's not the same.
Interesting.
Because why would Feyre and Nesta look so similar to each other and Elaine be the odd one out?
That's true. I mean, I was listening back, you know, in the editing of our most recent archive video. We're talking about how, you know, the older sister is meant to look like one parent and the second child is meant to look like the second parent, and then the third child is meant to like look like a mix. But it is odd that it's not even, I mean, yeah, Feyre has like her father's smile and her mother's eyes, but the fact that she looks more like her mother, more like Nesta, I definitely agree that would be interesting. Although Elaine being the middle child. And that's another thing that like we had touched on before, of like the fact that Nesta's mom was, or sorry, they're all of their mother,
yes,
as apparently.
Maybe
we'll see. I don't know. Their mother, you know, was very strict with Nesta, but then was like very loose and kind of just let Elaine do whatever. Like that almost felt like, oh, she's not my child. She can do what she wants.
Right.
Whereas father, Papa Archeron, he doted on Elaine the most out of all of them. So like maybe like there was an affair.
Maybe there was something there. Maybe Nesta and Elaine aren't his kids. Maybe it's the sense of where Elaine is actually Papa Archeron's kid, while says the other ones are not his.
Right.
You know, we don't know, but that's a very interesting development, because then if the mother gets tied into that somehow, maybe the mother possessed, quote unquote, the mom during those two times, but not Elaine. And then that makes it a question, why not her?
Right.
You know, so it's kind of up in the air, but I just wanted to throw that out there. That's something that I've seen. Did want to bring up about the mother in the library, though. So something that we both have our own, so we'll both have like our second of fame for. So the first time I heard about the library, and especially when reading Silver Flame, my first gut thought is that because we find out that the house is Nesta's creation, because she made the house alive, quote unquote. And so the darkness was there before Nesta. Like the darkness seemed to come alive after she started living there, but the darkness was already present. And speaking of Bryaxis again, like Bryaxis was at the bottom of the library. What was he protecting is my question. That was my question to myself. And I was like, what if that is where the mother is buried? Like, what if her body is down there and it's not protected anymore? And that's why she's more, how do I say, in the world now? Because she's not being dampered anymore. Because why did she pop up all of a sudden now?
It's true.
Than before?
And kind of like the early on when we've gotten moments where, you know, someone has felt like a warmth on their shoulders or something, specifically Nesta. But like, it isn't until Silver Flame, you know, after Bryaxis is gone, that like she's actually able to communicate verbally. So that would make sense. My theories like kind of were all over the place and not really put together very much. I mean, that's kind of like me, but anyway. One of the earlier ones that I had was that the house and the darkness was the mother. You know, I mean, this was partially before I learned about Bryaxis, but you know, at first I thought that the darkness down there was the mother and that she was like just waiting or whatever. That was her, similar to her resting place, but that she was still alive, her spirit, you know. And then once Nesta awakened the house by her need for company, you know, I thought that was the mother as well, especially considering the one for romance books.
Because it seems like the mother is somebody, she's very personified, if that makes sense. She seems, I mean, she's very godlike, but her and Nesta seem to, I don't know, vibe. That makes sense.
She definitely seems like a mother, you know, or like a caring family member is the vibe that I get from that. Another theory that I had was that, connecting from the mother being that darkness down in the pit. You know, I originally had like this theory theory, I kind of still do, that the mother is related to the cauldron. And hear me out, let me explain that a little bit more. So the cauldron, I think because of what happens here in ACOTAR, of like it is actively searching, it is actively wanting. The fact, I think this was something I learned in like 7th grade LA, is like if a character or something, if there is something that wants, if you want, then that person personifies it a little bit more. Like that's how you make a good character, of like this person wants this and they do this to get it. And like that's how you build a character. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anyway.
I agree. I 100% agree with that.
So I think that's what like led me to think that if the cauldron wanted something and was actively searching for Elaine, or was actively angry, to have emotions and be angry at Nesta, and gives this idea of sentience, where it's like actively thinking, you know, it has power and stuff, and you know, we learn about the inky darkness of it, you know, kind of reminds the inky darkness of the pit. That might be a bit of a stretch, but you know, it kind of made me think that you know, the cauldron was some kind of god that maybe was confined to the cauldron.
Well, and the two instances of the personified thing, which really hit home for me when you told me this, I was like, yeah, I totally agree. I didn't think that at all, so I was like, smart on you. Is when the nightmare when everybody wakes up before Elaine gets captured, and it seems like there's a person walking. It's Grayson. It's a vision, but at the same time, I actually think that was the cauldron.
Yeah,
Grayson was the cauldron.
It's very much similar to, I mean, yeah, that's what they like all see in the vision and stuff, is Grayson walking, but they also have that feeling of, even after they wake up, they still feel the lingering things of like something is walking around. I sense something. And it could be similar to the bone carver, you know, God, like where he doesn't have one specific form. He's just a presence, and he changes the form depending on his needs. I mean, the bone carver is, we still don't know why he chose what figures he showed people, but like it's similar to that, in that the cauldron, like you said, Grayson, seems to be able to shift into what it needs.
There were two other instances, now that I'm like on this train of thought, was so when then Nesta looked for the cauldron while she was stuck and Feyre had to save her, it's like the cauldron saw her.
Yes.
Like the cauldron looked at her, and like Nesta felt it, and that's why she got so scared, and that's why she couldn't let go of the bones and whatever when she was searching for it.
Yes.
The other one...
That's true. That is true. I just remembered that.
Because that's what triggers it to go after Elaine, because it looked at Nesta and found out where they were.
Right. That is... It was very much like a two-way street, which is, I guess, kind of similar to what we think of as Daimati from what we've learned. I mean, the skilled ones don't usually get caught. But if you get caught, you know, you're connecting two different minds, basically, you know, and then the Daimati, like, built the bridge between that. So it's like, well, if you can walk down the bridge, someone else can come back. Like, you could do a whole switcheroo, potentially. So, yeah, that is, I hadn't even thought of that in this moment, of the fact that she felt something looking back. And yeah, while a lot of the time that is just a presence, but for a presence to want, and like I said, emotions, and to actually do actions.
Well, especially at the same time, she wasn't really, that was really early on in her magic journey. So she was very vulnerable and open in terms of her walls. The other one I did want to mention was, I brought it up earlier, but I think hitting it beat by beat. So the end of ACOTAR, when the cauldron is looking for, so Nesta uses herself as bait for Hybern, but also, so what happens is Feyre is attached to the cauldron. Yeah. And Feyre is attached to the cauldron, and she's seeing through the cauldron's eyes as she sees Nesta. So it's like the cauldron was not there, but it strung itself out all the way to where Nesta was. So it's like the cauldron was there with Feyre, but the cauldron shot out to where she was. So it was able to go, like, the presence or whatever you're talking about was outside of the actual where it was. It was there watching everything that happened.
And not just like towards Nesta, although obviously it seems to have some obsession with Nesta. But like,
she stole from him.
She fought and kicked and took whatever she could and forced it to give magic up. So of course, that would cause a grudge. Again, sentience. Objects don't have grudges. But you were saying, like, with the traveling in the battlefield of, you know, it specifically was like weaving between people, and like, you know, Feyre could like look around as if she was seeing through someone else's eyes, you know, stopping to see Miriam versus Jerian, like that whole thing. Like
Prythian versus that bad general guy.
If it was like a straight beeline to Nesta, that could be like just a presence or something. But the fact that it was like physically weaving throughout the battlefield and like pausing to look at different parts of the battle, it almost gets like, ooh, what's happening over here? Or what's happening over here? Until it finally is like, okay, I finally got where I was going.
hear me out. I just had an epiphany.
I saw it.
What if, so you're saying, so let's go with your train of thought. The Cauldron is personified. Why do you think it likes Elaine so much? Maybe Cauldron is Elaine's father, mother, whoever. And that's why he's so, because why does he obsess with Elaine more than the others? Because at the end of ACOTAR, as Elaine kills the King of Hybern, and because again, at this point, the Cauldron is kind of entwined in Hybern. Like the Cauldron is letting itself be controlled by him for whatever reason. That's a little bit also out there because we don't really know why that is.
Yeah.
But hear me out. It's, as I brought it up earlier, when the Cauldron was about to pounce on her, Feyre felt the Cauldron give up because as soon as, and this is how Feyre describes it, because Elaine was protecting Nesta against Hybern, whoever. The Cauldron let the grudge go with Nesta and backed up.
So it's like, okay, if Elaine wants to protect Nesta, I guess I can let it go because I don't want to hurt Elaine.
Because something, like Feyre said it some way in ACOTAR at some point where she said that they've epiphanized, right? Because again, Elaine is a seer. I don't think that's all she is, but that's what we know so far.
Yeah.
The Cauldron gifted magic to Elaine whilst Nesta took it. Why did the Cauldron give her magic? Was it because she went in first? I don't think that's much of a coincidence. I think that's too coincidental.
Yeah.
Maybe there is some more connection with her and the Cauldron than we think.
So I just had two ideas. One of them is more theory, but the first one is kind of funny. So let me say that. So because, I had that original theory of, the mother and the Cauldron are like, I don't know, like mother and brother or something like that, siblings, more sibling rivalry, because apparently that's what gods do. But like, what if it was just like, this Cauldron, like the presence that it is not on good terms with the mother, and the mother was already protecting Nesta in some way, I think. Personally, I think that, even though she was a human. So like, what if it's like the Cauldron felt Nesta and it's like, oh, you're her child or something, like, like, screw you, I'm not giving you anything.
While Feyre is actively holding on to it and destroyed it.
Right.
He's like, what the fuck is with your children? Like,
but the other thing, more theoretical, is when the Cauldron took Elaine and brought her to the camp, the Cauldron was following the king's orders. Again, we don't know why, but what if the Cauldron actually like spoke to Elaine and we just don't know it because we haven't had much interaction with Elaine?
Well, sorry, I'm gonna correct you here. I don't think Hybern told the Cauldron to take her. It wasn't Elaine they were looking for. It was Nesta they were looking for.
That's true.
So, because I remember Jurian saying something about when they were in the war room and when Elaine just popped up out of nowhere, everybody was kind of surprised.
So then let me amend this a little bit. What if the king ordered the Cauldron to go like look and like spy on Nesta, maybe take Nesta, and the Cauldron is just like, I don't want anything to do with her, and then grabbed Elaine, and so then when brought Elaine back. Again, the second part of that original theory was, the Cauldron said something to Elaine that we just don't know about. But I can totally imagine the Cauldron and Elaine like just walking side by side. I mean, I totally imagine like still pretending to be Grayson. They could just be talking like old friends, like old lovers, and then not realizing they're at the camp already.
Well, she seemed also very, very calm.
Yes.
Obviously she was a little freaked out, but not as freaked out as I would be if I was in the heart of Hybern's 200,000 people camp.
And also hearing the screaming of the girls on the spits.
She was fine.
She was like chilling. I'm like, oh, Feyre, you're here. Oh, Azrael, hi.
Do you think the Cauldron would have protected her if Hybern tried to hurt her?
I feel like it would. I think actually that maybe the reason she was so calm was like maybe she wasn't even aware that she was there. Like maybe like she was just in her mind talking with the Cauldron that whole time when she was, what was it? Because Feyre like grabbed her arm and stuff to be like, Elaine, we're here, that kind of stuff. And she's just like, oh, hi. Almost like she had been woken up from like a daze or something.
Yeah, and she was fine. Like she wasn't freaking out. She wasn't crying. Well, maybe she had a few tears, but I don't think she wasn't freaking out.
Maybe the tears were because she couldn't talk with the Cauldron, aka Grayson, anymore.
Maybe, dude. I don't know. Maybe the Cauldron is promising her to, remember, because isn't she on the crusade that she wants to be human again?
That's true. Maybe the Cauldron like discussing with her about like, hey, I could probably make you human again if you do these things, and then that leads into her evil arc. And taking
the Dread Trove.
Ooh.
The Cauldron wants the Dread Trove back.
Ooh. Do you think it would destroy it?
I think it would eat it.
So yeah, destroy it.
If those items were made from the Cauldron, does that technically mean that those items took some of its power, kind of like Nesta did, to where like it's not as up to snuff as it would be?
Yeah, probably. Like the Dread Trove is similar to the Horcruxes from Harry Potter. Of like, what if like that's what the Cauldron did? The Cauldron made them and had to put a part of itself into them, which I guess kind of along those same lines. Then Harry Potter was a Horcrux of Voldemort's. Like, what if Nesta is a Horcrux?
Well, she almost gave most of her power back though, so
But
he should be fine.
But did she give it back to the Cauldron, or did she give it to the mother? That kind
Maybe
of like,
maybe they're at a war. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Is like the Cauldron is attaching itself to Elaine, which is going to cause their conflict. Because it seems like they want two separate things.
right. So like in that case, then it's kind of less of the mother-brother kind of thing. But at the same time, it does also still feel very familial. And I'm not entirely sure why, but I feel like the Cauldron is more masculine presence.
Maybe they're ex-lovers. Maybe they started the world together, and then he got too out of hand, and she had to imprison him in the Cauldron to damper him down instead of.
She did use the Cauldron's power to create Prythian. So that is an interesting concept. But okay, so if we're going with the war idea, then like, does that mean that it's going to be Nesta is the mother's champion and Elaine is the Cauldron's champion? And so then it's Nesta versus Elaine.
Which would be so interesting because Nesta was always the one protecting Elaine.
It would make sense actually, though, if then they had to like fight it out, and Nesta would have to get over her conflict of her conflicted emotions of fighting Elaine, and they would have to. And I totally imagine like it's going to be like focused on their relationship and their fighting, and then Lucian's going to deal with being mate and stuff and trying to figure out what side to be on and
deal with it.
Have to deal with that whole thing until Elaine's out, and then Reese and Farah, they're just going to have to deal with the political side of things, and probably become like high king and queen, watch Nyx grow up and stuff.
Well, because I could totally 100% see Elaine making any sort of deal by taking the Dread Trove and trying to get herself human again.
Just so she could Grayson, even though Grayson's already rejected her.
Because even if she did change back to human, he wouldn't want her, I don't think.
No.
It's just a dead end.
It would be the kind of case of, Grayson's been kind of helped in the war, but they were led by Jurian. It wasn't led by Grayson specifically. Kind of gives vibes of, literally what Jurian and Miriam and Prythian went through of, let's get all the information about Faye out of Elaine.
Well, and they did that. They came at the last second, bro.
Yeah.
Though, kind of bringing it all the way back to the beginning, what if instead, maybe it's not the Cauldron, but maybe she makes a deal with Kosechi? Give him the Dread Trove, can you make me human again?
What if she becomes cursed? Like Vasa?
That would tie in Lucian, that would tie in Vasa, that would kind of be more of a, I don't want to say a realistic possibility, but more of a thing that would tie in all of those empty plot lines.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is so interesting. Like, I really want to hear what people think about the Mother, the Cauldron, the Death Gods. Like, it's such an interesting concept.
Remember, this is all theory. Like, literally, I came up with shit on the spot, except for a few ones that I've had for a while. So it's like literally all theory.
Also, none of us know. Even in a Massverse way, there's no way to know.
It would be wonderful if in the next book it's just like, oh, I predicted it.
Yeah, because that's the fun thing about books, right? Is to guess and then see. It's fun to kind of analyze and then be like, okay, but these moments it makes sense for that to happen. And I will say a kind of caveat to that though is when people will get upset that their thing didn't happen.
Right.
It's like, yeah, we're all doing theories, but I'm not gonna be so upset that if my stuff that I guessed wasn't true.
Right. It's gonna be like, oh, okay.
I trust SJM to an unhealthy extent to where I don't think that she could write something that I wouldn't understand.
Right.
And that wouldn't fit. But I'm so excited. I love doing episodes like these because we just kind of get to let everything get put on the table that we know and be like, so what about this?
Yeah, going back and editing this, you're just going to hear constantly me just saying, what if?
That's fine. I appreciate it. So yeah, is there anything else you want to say before I say my outro?
Not really, except literally, you guys should tell us all about your theories, and I want to see how many ours are similar.
Yes, tell us everything. Instagram. So yeah, please put your theories in Instagram, Facebook. We're on TikTok. Please put them anywhere, or send us an email, whichever one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, I'll promote the Patreon. Please follow us on there if you can. Please review. Reviewing does help us. Review on Spotify, podcast, wherever you watch the episode. Please, that's really helpful to us and helpful to anybody who does podcasts, honestly.
And it's helpful in not just us learning about our feedback, but it also helps us, get more people as well. If they see good reviews or see actual comments of oh, interesting, these people are like this, I want to go look at them.
Right. So it helps in any way you can. So please, and also share this with, I don't usually say this, but share this with any people who like SJM or like ACOTAR. Please share this with all of your ACOTAR friends, because this, honestly, any theory, this will be fun. So share this with your friends. Or if you don't have any ACOTAR friends and you want them to start the journey, make them. Make them watch the podcast. So yeah, and if they think they'd like us, please share with them too. Share with everybody.
That's what Tabi did with me. I mean, she made me read it, and now look where we are doing a whole fucking podcast.
I bullied you for the whole summer to get you to do it.
I was so resistant. I was just like, well, I guess I could read it a little bit later. And then the moment I started, bam, right.
And now you're here, and you can never go back now.
Yep, I wouldn't want to go back.
Hell no. So yes, please do all that. So the next episode will be our main episode. We'll be going through chapters 20 through the end of 29.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll be going under the Court of Nightmares. Great.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna be better or different than the last time.
Yeah, better and like worse in ways.
Probably worse and different.
Because we're gonna have to see Eris again.
Ugh, and here.
Eris is growing on me though, okay? That'll be another episode.
Seem as bad as, the story we heard of 500 years ago.
But he was a total prick in ACOTAR, 100%.
Yeah. Say that some people can change in 500 years.
Right, so.
Anyway.
Yes, we'll see you guys in the next episode, and then we'll see a lot of you in the next spoilery episode from now. Yep. So, yes, I hope you guys are happy and healthy, and we'll see you guys next episode.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Getting lost in your eyes.